How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Ches, Daf 38 of Masechta Sotah. Friends, Daf 38, Mamash Gaval. We start talking about Birkas Kehanim, which is super interesting. I mean, in Eretz Yisrael, it's very lemaisa, because in Eretz Yisrael there's Birkas Kehanim every day. If there's a kohen, so there's Birkas Kehanim in shul. So Mamish, this is it's very interesting to see these halachas. Mamish, we're gonna discuss a lot of halachas of Birkas Kehanim. So here we go. We're gonna start in Daf Lamed Zayin with base all the way at the bottom. Birkas Kehanim Ketzad. No, so tell us a bit about Birkas Kehanim. B'Medina Omer Osa Shalosh Brachos. So outside of the Beis Hamikdash, so it's 3 brachos, right? Yivarechecha Hashem v'Yishmerecha, and then the crowd answers Amen. Yare Hashem Panav Elecha v'Yichuneka, followed by Amen. Yisa Hashem Panav Elecha v'Yasem Lecha Shalom, also followed by Amen. So outside of the Beis Hamikdash, it's 3 brachos. Uva Mikdash, but in the temple, bracha achas, it's 1 blessing, because they didn't say Amen in the Beis Hamikdash. So B'Mikdash Omer Es Hashem Kichsavo, in the Beis Hamikdash they pronounce God's name Yud Kei Vav Kei. Uva Medina Bechinuyo. But in outside of the Beis Hamikdash we say Aleph Daled Nun Yud. B'Medina Kehanim Nosim Yisideim Keneged Kisvein. In or outside of the temple, so when the Kehanim do the blessing, they lift up their hands, they raise up their hands to the level of their shoulder. I guess I'm not a kohen, so I'm not familiar with these halachas, but that's what the Mishnah is saying. But I think when I guess you're not supposed to look, but let's just say somehow I think that their hands are raised a bit, right? I guess, like, do we have any Kohanim in the house? Incite us? No, that would be bad. Don't incite us. Not enliven. Enlighten us. Do we have any Kohanim in the house? Enlighten us. But by Medina Kohanim Nosim Sidem Kneket's fame, so they lift up their hands equal to their like by their shoulders. Uva Mikdash, in the temple, Al Gabi Roshein, it would be above their heads. Oh, do I have to move that chair? I might have to move that chair. Excuse me. So in the temple, they would raise their hands above their heads. Chutz mi kohen gadol, the exception being the high priest, that he does not raise his hands above the tzitz. The tzitz was the gold plate that he would wear on his forehead that said Kodesh LaHashem. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda, Av kohen gadol magbia yadav lemala min hatzitz, that even the kohen gadol would raise his hands above the tzitz. Shenemar, as the apostle says, Vayisa Aharon is yodav eloam vayivarchim, that Aharon lifted his hands up towards the nation and blessed them. Alright, and I guess that means he could lift his hands above the tzitz. Says the Gemara, Tanarban, Kosev Archu B'Lashon Kodesh, Atom B'Lashon Kodesh, Eina Ela B'Lashon B'Chol Lashon. So, when it says Kosev Archu, right, that like this, you should bless the well, it's Takamachlek, it's Tanakam Rebuda, because Varchu B'Lashon HaKodesh, right, so is it, so the priestly blessing needs to be in Lashon Kodesh. So, or maybe it could be in any language. Nemarkan kosevarchu v'nem lahalan eliyamdu levarech esa'am. So over here it says kosevarchu, like this you should bless, and it says by hagrizim in our evil that they will stand to bless the nation. And so it says blessing in both contexts. Malahalan b'lashon kodesh, avkan b'lashon kodesh. So just like by hagrizim in our evil, it was in lashon kodesh. So also by the priestly blessings, it's davke in lashon kodesh. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda Eino Tzarich Harei Omer Ko Ad She'omer B'Lashon Hazeh. Nu, as we saw the other day, like by Kocho. So Rabbi Yehuda says that, well, it says Ko Sevarchu, so like this, Davka, exactly like this, in Lashon Kodesh, not in any other language. Tani Idach, we have another brayso that says Ko Sevarchu Ba'amida. Okay, that when the priests bless the people, they have to do it standing. Ata Omer Ba'amida, Oinu Ele Afilu B'Yeshiva. Wait, how do you know? Maybe they could be sitting. Nemarkan ko sevarchu v'nemalalan eliyamdu levarech malalan ba'amida avkan ba'amida. So, well, it says over here you should bless, and also says by the blessings and curses on our agrizim and our aval, it says that they will stand to bless. So here also by the priestly blessing, it is standing. Reb Nosson Omer Eino Tzarich, Reb Nosson learns out from the following pasuk, L'sharso u'levarich bishmo, that to serve, right, it says by the Kohanim to serve and to bless in his name. Just like the service of the priest, it's just like the priestly service is done in standing. So also, just like the priestly service, you stand. So also, when you bless, you stand, right? Because we're comparing the blessing to l'sharso u'levarich bishmo. So therefore, just like this, the service is standing, so also the blessing is standing. And how do we know that the service is standing? That the priestly service is done standing? As the pasuk says, "Lamod l'sharis," to stand to serve. I have a feeling that my light is going to go out in the middle, and it's going to mess up my head. It's already messing my head. It hasn't even gone out yet. I meant to charge it more earlier, but I didn't. Should I just turn it off now? Why not? I'm just going to turn it off now. And then I don't have to worry about when it's going to go out. And then let me just take a second to like readjust my brain to not having the light on. Okay. I think I'm readjusted. Okay. 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 I think I'm readjusted. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm readjusted. Fine. Great. So therefore, just like so we compare l'sharso levarich bishmo. So we compare the priestly blessing to the service, just like the service is standing. So also the priestly blessing is done standing. Tani idach. We learn another brayso. Kosevarchu b'nesiyus kapayim. So when it says kosevarchu, so it means that they have to lift up their hands, right? As we mentioned in the Mishnah, lifting your hands like by your shoulders or above your head in the Beis Hamikdash. So how do you know it means that you have to lift up the hands? Maybe you don't have to lift up your hands. Well, it says over here by the priestly blessings that they will bless, and it also says by Aharon, the high priest, when he blessed the people, it says Vayivarchem, and it says Vayisa Aharon es Yadav, he lifted up his hands. So just like Aharon lifted up his hands, so also by the priestly blessing, the priests lift up their hands. Kasha le Reb Yonason, but Reb Yonason has a kasha on that. How can we learn out lifting your hands from Aharon a Kohen, in the context of the Miluim, so when it says that he blessed the people, Imalaholan Kohen Gadol v'Rosh Chodesh Tzibur. Over there, it was Dafka the high priest, and it was Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and it was also in the context of public offerings. If we're comparing the priestly blessing to when Aharon blessed the people, so that so we would, in that context, that we would have to limit the priestly blessing to the Kohen Gadol on Rosh Chodesh in the context of public offerings. So Reb Nosson Omer Eino Tzarich. So Reb Nosson learns it out from here. Hari Omer Hu Uvanav Kol Hayom. That we have another pasuk that that says that God, that basically the priests, Aharon and his children will serve all of the days. So we compare Aharon to Aharon's children to him. Where Mahu Van of Kolayom, Makish Bonav Lo, we compare his children to him. Mahu Benesius Kapayim, Af Bonav Benesius Kapayim. And we're saying that just like Aharon does the priestly blessing with his hands raised, so also his children raise their hands. Uchsev Kol Hayomim, and it says all of the days. It says in the pasuk, in that same pasuk, Hu Uvanav Kol Hayomim, for all of the days. So not just on Rosh Chodesh, so at any time and in any context, v'iskish bracha l'sheris, and we compare blessing to the service, and therefore, just like we compare in that pasuk that we compare Hu Uvanav, it says Lamud l'sharis, but we have that other pasuk from earlier that says L'sharso levarich bishmo, so we compare blessing to the service, and therefore if we can compare his children to him with regard to the service, we can then extend that to the blessing, and therefore just like the service, we compare his children to him, and it says kol hayom. So basically, we compare his children to him for all days. So therefore, that we would apply that also to the priestly blessing, that it would be for his children for all days, and also just like Aharon lifted up his hands, so also his children lift up his hands. We compared them to each other for all things. With Tanidach, we have another brayso, Kosovarchus b'nei Yisrael b'shem ha'meforish. That as we saw, we're going to see what we saw in the Mishnah. It's Dafka in the Beis Hamikdash, but also we're going to see now Dafka in the Beis Hamikdash. But they used God's name. How do you know it means God's actual name and not like a reference to God's name? I would say a nickname, but because that sounds a little funny in the context of God. But an alternative name. Talmud Lomar v'samu shmi. So it says in the pasuk, in the context of the priestly blessing, it says v'samu shmi al bnei Yisrael v'ani avarchem. So v'samu shmi amiyuchadli. My name that is specific for me, God's name. Yochalaf begvulin ken. Is it possible that also outside of the temple, the priests would say God's actual name? So Nemar Khan v'samu es shmi v'nemar lahalon lasum es shmo. By the priestly blessing, it says to place my name, and it also says in another place lasum es shmo sham over there in the Beis Hamikdash. Malahalim Beis Habechir Avkam Beis Habechir. Just like over there when it says lasum es shmo sham, his name is Davka in the temple. So also here in the context of the priestly blessings, only when the priestly blessings are being blessed in the temple do you say God's actual name. Otherwise, you say, as Rashi said on the Mishnah, Aleph Daled Nun Yud. Rabbi Yoshua Omer says, Rabbi Yoshua Eino Tzarech Harei Omer. Rabbi Yoshua learns it out from the following pasuk: B'chol hamakom asher azkir es shmi avo elecha uverticha. I think is the pasuk. So the pasuk says, in any place that I will mention my name, I will go there to bless you. So it's kind of a funny pasuk, right? B'chol makom salka daitich. What do you mean? Like in any place you're blessing God's name? What does that mean? You're saying God's name in any place. Ella mikrazam istaris. This pasuk you have to kind of move some words around. The way that you understand it is b'chol makom asher avo elecha uverticha. That any place where I go to you to bless you, sham azkir ashmi. There you can mention my name. Ve'heichon avo elecha uverticha. Where is the place that I go to bless you? Bebeis habechir in the Beis Hamikdash. Sham azkir ashmi bebeis habechir. So that is where you could say God's name only where God goes to bless, i.e. in the Beis Hamikdash, but outside the Beis Hamikdash, you would say Aleph Daled Nun Yud. Tani Idach, we have another brayso, Kosovarchos b'nei Yisrael, Einli Ella b'nei Yisrael, Gerim Menashim V'avadim Mishucharim Minayin. So it says, like this, you should bless the children of Israel. How do we know that the blessing isn't limited to the children of Israel, but also converts, women, freed slaves? Minayin Tamlomer Omer Loim Lechulu. Say to them, say to everybody. Okay. Interesting. We also had recently that Amarta was a inclusive word as well. What was that coming to include? Do you remember? What was Amarta coming to include? Do you remember? What was Marta coming to include? We had it recently. Should I look it up? I don't know. Maybe, 1 second. So interestingly, actually, it was on Daf Chavav to learn that it includes Gerim and Avodim Mishucharim as well over there. Interesting. By Sotah. So actually, very interesting that the Amarta comes to include. I'm happy I looked it up. So Amor Lahem to everybody, and so from the word Amor, we're including it, and also from the Amarta in the context of Sotah, we had learned that it comes to include Gerim and Avodim Mishucharim as well. Very interesting. Tani Idach, we learned another brayso, Kosovarchu Ponim Kineged Ponim. This is important, that like this, you should bless Ponim Kineged Ponim. You have to be facing each other, right? There's halacha when it comes to Birkas Kehanim, that you want to face the Kehanim. So it comes from here. Right, so ponim keneged ponim. Atomer ponim keneged ponim. Weinu ella ponim keneged orif. Wait, maybe you don't need to be face to face with the kehanim. Maybe you could turn your back to them. Tam lomer omer loim ki adam omer lachaver. It's like a person talking to his friend. Right, a fellow talks to another fellow. You look at their face. So here also, Tani idach kosovarchu b'kol ram. That the priests have to bless the people out loud. Maybe they whisper it. Like a person talking to his friend, he talks out loud, he doesn't whisper. Amar Abaye naktinan l'shnaim korei kehanim v'le'echad einu korei kohen. Also halacha when it comes to duchening, right? If you notice, you ever been to a synagogue where they're blessing where there's the priestly blessing during prayers. So somebody will yell out kohanim, right? All the priests are there, like by the ark, and they're about to bless the people, and they're waiting. They're waiting for somebody to yell out kohanim, and until then they wait. So that is only if there are. So says Abai, that is if there are two or more kohanim. If there's only one kohen, then nobody says kohen. So again, so Amar Abai naktinon l'shnaim korei kohanim. If there are two kohanim, so somebody yells at kohanim. V'le'echad eino korei kohen. But if there's only one person there, so that if there's one priest there, so then you don't say kohen. Shneimar amor lahem shnaim. Say to them, to multiple them, to at least two. V'amar Rav Chizda says Rav Chizda naktinon kohen korei kohanim ve'nisua korei kohanim. So Rav Chizda says that the person who yells out kohanim dafka has to be a kohen himself. Shneimar amor lahem amir mishalahem. That it has to be one of them. A kohen needs to yell out kohanim. Mishaloim te ve'uchsa kavasid Abai v'leichsa kavasid Rav Chizda. But says the Gemara that we pass in the Kabayit that it could be anybody, that anybody yells out kohanim. Very, very interesting. As long as there are two or more kohanim. All right. You can skip the parentheses. Amar Bishur ben Levi. Says Bishur ben Levi. Minayin shekadosh baruch hu misava lebikas kohanim. How do you know that the Eibishter desires the bikas kohanim? Shneimar v'samo shmei b'nei Yisrael ani avarchem. That the priest will put my name on God on the people. V'ani avarchem, and I will bless them. That the Eibishter wants to be part of it. Amar Bishur ben Levi says Bishur ben Levi called kohen shemivarich misbarich. Any priest who blesses the people, he himself gets blessed. And if he doesn't bless the people, so he doesn't get blessed. And I will bless those who bless you. If a kohen doesn't go up to bless the people, to do the priestly blessing, over b'shalosh essay, he violates 3 mitzvahs essay, right? If a kohen is in the synagogue, and for whatever reason he can't bless the people, so he should leave. Right? He shouldn't just stand there. He should. If he's in the synagogue, he needs to bless the people. And if he doesn't, so he violates, transgresses 3 mitzvahs essay. Kosevarchu, right? The pasuk of this is how you should bless them. Amar lohem, say to them, v'samoshmi, and place my name on the people. So 3 essays. Rav Amar Choshin Shema Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. Rav says we even have to be concerned that maybe he's a chalal, but maybe he's Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. Who Velo Plige, and Rav doesn't argue with Rabbi Shua Ben Levi. It is hadusalik lefrakim, hadulo salik lefrakim. Right? If he ends up, duchening, doing the priestly blessing on, like Yom Tovim and stuff. So then clearly he's not a chalal. But if he just never blesses the people, so we have to be concerned that he's a chalal. V'amar Rabbi Shua Ben Levi says Rabbi Shua Ben Levi kol kohen she'eno ole ba'avoda shuv eno ole. Also super important, right? It's very halacha l'maisa stuff. That again, if we have a priest in the house, maybe he can enlighten us. But I believe that during Ritzei is when the kohanim go up. Right, when you say Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu B'am Chaysav Esfilasim Shev, etc. So that is when the kohanim go up to the ark where they're going to bless the people. But after that, it's too late. Right? Kol kohen she'eno ole ba'avoda shuveno ole. Right? After avoda, he doesn't go up anymore. Or I guess you should definitely at least try to make sure you get up there during Ritzei. Shneimar vayisa Aharon es yodav Elohim vayivarchem, that Aharon blessed the people, vayered mi'asos achatos ve'olav ashlamim, and then he came down from offering the korbanos. So malahalim ba'avoda, just like Aharon blessed the people in the context of the korbanos, of the avoda, of the service, afkan ba'avoda, also here in the blessing of Ritzei, which is the blessing of avoda. So here also, that is when you, with the kohanim go up to assume their positions for blessing the people. Ini, is this really true? For Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, Salke, but Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi went, to the duchen, to where they were going to bless the people after Ritzei. Rabbi Asi meikara havu akre karayu mimta lahavo matu lahasum. Yeah, enochinami. That's true. They didn't necessarily arrive there during Ritzei, but they had at least started walking. They had started moving and moving towards the duchen during Ritzei. So that was enough. It's only an issue if you didn't start moving there in that direction. But as long as you started moving towards the duchen to bless the people, then you can still bless the people. We also learn in the Mishnah that the context is if you have a priest who himself is the shliach tzibur. So if you have a priest who himself is a shliach tzibur, so we say that as long as he wouldn't get distracted by the blessings and would be able to go straight back into sim shalom afterwards, so then it's permitted. Vavinam, but we ask halo akar, but enochinami, even if he can get right back into sim shalom without getting distracted, but still he can't walk there. He's the shliach tzibur. Ela dinod purta hachanami dakar purta. There also, but he just makes some kind of a move. Is some kind of a body gesture to indicate that he's going towards the duchen, and that is enough. So here also, as long as you started moving towards the duchen, that is enough, even if you get there a little bit after. V'amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and says Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, enosnin kos shel bracha levarich el tov ayin, that we give a kos shel bracha, I imagine like Birkas Hamazon, does Rashi even say that? Yeah, Birkas Hamazon. Right, to somebody who's a tov ayin, says Rashi, shzone batza, he doesn't accept bribes, v'gomle chesed b'mamonon, and people who give tzedakah. So these people should be given the kos shel bracha to bench. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, tov ayin hu yivorach, kinosu milach molidal, that a person who has a good eye and is a gomel chesed, so then hu yivorach, he will be blessed, because he gives from his bread to a destitute person. Don't read will be blessed, but yivarech will right? He will bless. He will lead the blessing. How do you know that even birds can identify and can spot a fellow who's stingy? That any bird is able to pick out the stingy people, and those people are putting out their nets for no reason. The birds are never going to go there. Anybody who benefits from a stingy individual over Bilav violates a negative commandment. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Al tilcham es lechem ra'oyin. Do not partake in the bread of a stingy individual. That he basically tells you to eat and drink, but he doesn't really mean it. He doesn't want to benefit you. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak over b'shnei lavin. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says you violate two negative commandments by benefiting from a stingy individual. Al tilcham ve'al tisav. That when it says do not eat the bread and also do not desire anything of his. It says Rabbi Shua ben Levi in Egla Arufa ba ela b'shvil tzaria ayin. What's an Egla Arufa? Egla Arufa is that if you have a fellow a corpse is found in mamish in between two cities, we don't know who the murderer is or anything about this corpse, so you take a calf and you kill it in a valley. So says Rabbi Shua ben Levi that this whole situation of the corpse being found and the calf, so ela b'shvil tzaria ayin, it's only because of stinginess that this whole thing came about. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, v'anu v'amru yadenu lo shavchu es adam hazeh, that you get the elders of the cities and they come out and they say our hands didn't spill this blood. Obviously, they didn't spill the blood. V'chi alibenu also shezikni bezin shofchei damim. What did you really have a havmina that the rabbonim of the city were murderers? Ella lo bali adenu ftanu v'lo reinu v'nachnu lo bali adenu ftanu b'lo mezonis. That they say, look, he didn't come to us. He didn't come to us asking for food, and we denied him. V'lo reinu v'nachnu b'lo levia. And they say, look, our hands are clean. He never came to us asking for food and was denied. We never saw him and let him go on his own without without an escort, that we have to make sure that there was no stinginess involved in this situation, because stinginess would lead to a person being found dead in between a city. This is super interesting. If you have what if everybody in the congregation is priests, and now you get up to the priestly blessing? Who are they actually blessing? There's nobody else. So they all go up to bless. Who are they blessing? They're blessing the people who are working in the fields and are unable to attend the synagogue. That's who they're blessing. Ini, is that true? Whoever is behind the Kohanim are not included in the blessing, right? Again, you may have noticed in the synagogue that when it comes time to the priestly blessing, anybody who is not in front of the priests, they move to get in front of the priests because of this halacha that am shachor Kohanim ein bichlal bracha. Anyone behind the priests are not included in their blessing. Look, so on the one hand, how could it be that if the entire congregation is priests, they all bless, and we're saying, who are they blessing? The people that aren't here. How could they be blessing people that aren't here? Even the people that are there, but are just not in front of the Kohanim, are not part of the blessing. Certainly not the people out working the fields. So lokasha hadanise adelanise. No, these two examples are very different. The people that are working the fields because, they have to work the field and they can't make it to the synagogue, so okay, they can't make it to the synagogue, so the priests are able to bless them, even if they're out in the fields. But somebody who's in the synagogue and is just too lazy to walk in front of the Kohanim, so then the blessing does not apply to them. Ve'atani Reb Shimi mi birta de beis hakneses shekula Kohanim miktasan olam amen. But didn't Reb Shimi from the city of Shichure say that when you have the entire congregation is priests, so some of them go up to bless, and the others say Amen. So why are we saying that everybody goes up to bless? I thought some of them go up to bless, some of them listen and say Amen. Lokasha hada ishtayir be'asar adlo ishtayir be'asar. The answer is, well, it depends. If there are more than 10 priests, so that if basically you need to have a minyan, right? For this to happen, for some of them to bless and some of them to say Amen, there would have to be 10 priests saying Amen. So if you have 11 or more Kohanim, so you can have at least one or more priests making the blessing, and you have 10 priests answering, being blessed, listening and saying Amen, so then you would do that. But if there's only 10 or less, that if you have, one or more priests making the blessing, you'll have less than 10 saying Amen, so then all of them would just go up and bless, and they would be blessing the people in the fields. I read it in a note in the art scroll that, now what if you have 11 people in the synagogue, 10 of them are priests, which means that you'll have 10 priests, but they're only blessing one person. There's not going to be a minyan answering Amen. That's okay. The 10 priests would go up and bless the one person, even though it's only one person saying Amen, that would be enough. So you don't actually have to have a minyan of people receiving the blessing. Only in that case where there's only Kohanim, then you'd have to have 10 Kohanim. But in a regular minyan, you don't need to have 10 non-Kohanim to be receiving the blessing. Even one would be enough. Super interesting daf, I think, Chaver. That was daf Lamed Ches of Masechta Sotah. We started talking about the halachas of Birkas Kohanim, which I think are super interesting. Lifting. What were some of the halachas that we discussed? Well, some stuff relating to the Kohanim lifting up their hands, for example, making sure, right, if you're a Kohen, making sure that you get, or at least start moving towards the Duchen during Ritzei. We discussed facing the Kohanim, and the opinion that if you're behind the Kohanim, so there were two things. One is that even if you're in front of the Kohanim, you should be face to face, not back, you shouldn't have your back towards the Kohanim. That's one thing. Secondly, is that you shouldn't be behind the Kohanim, you should be in front of the Kohanim. And that we said if you're behind the Kohanim, so then the blessing will not apply. What were some of the other blessings what were some of the other things that we discussed which were super interesting? Oh, Kohanim, right? That when there are 2 or more Kohanim, so somebody yells out Kohanim, but if there's only one Kohen, so then you don't say it. And I think that those were some of the really interesting things. And I think that this sugya continues for a bit more. Friends, that was daf Lamed Tes of Masechta Sotah. Lamed Ches of Masechta Sotah. Hope you enjoy. Peace out.